Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Marcus Aurelius. We all experience worry in various aspects of our lives. It could be about the trajectory of our career, the state of our relationships, or something as seemingly trivial as choosing the right outfit for an evening out. But have we ever stopped to think about what worry actually is? Worry often acts like a subtle, persistent hum in the back of our minds, like a radio that's always on, but instead of music, it's filled with endless chatter. This chatter keeps us focused on uncertainties that lie ahead in the future, or replaying past events we wish we could change. This mindset can affect both our mental and physical well-being. It's a struggle that can make even the simple tasks seem daunting. And that's precisely what Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, addressed in many of his writings. Stoicism, the philosophy Aurelius practiced, discussed extensively the nature of worry and anxiety, and the mental turmoil that comes with it. The Stoic philosophy offers a different approach to these common struggles, and that's by equipping us with tools to manage our thoughts and emotions, guiding us to focus on what's within our control. In this video, we'll explore some of the Stoic teachings that can help us manage our worries and stress more effectively, and how it can practically be applied in our daily lives. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Worrying originally served as a survival mechanism, deeply ingrained in our biology. In ancient times, this instinct was crucial for anticipating immediate threats, such as predators lurking in the shadows. It was a tool that helped our ancestors prepare for and navigate life or death situations. Fast forward to today, and the motives of our worries has dramatically shifted. We're no longer concerned about predators in the literal sense, but our worry instinct hasn't caught up with the times. Instead, it's fixated on modern-day predators like looming deadlines or the bills we have to pay. One central principle of Stoicism is known as the dichotomy of control, a principle that can be traced back to the teachings of Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers. The dichotomy of control asks us to categorize our concerns into two distinct categories: things we can control and things we can't. As Epictetus once said, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." In this quote, Epictetus emphasized that this principle is more than just a mental exercise. It's a practical tool for daily living that can significantly help reduce our levels of stress and worry. When we find ourselves entangled in a web of worry, we can take a moment to pause and ask ourselves a simple question: is this situation something I have the power to change? If the answer is yes, then that's our cue to take constructive steps to address the issue and start problem solving. However, if we realize that the matter is out of our hands, Stoicism encourages us to let go, therefore releasing ourselves from the emotional burden of trying to control things we simply have no control over. For instance, when it comes to job interviews, it's natural for our minds to race with thoughts about how we'll perform. We might even lose sleep over it, imagining every possible scenario. But if we pause and remember the Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control, we'll realize that the only aspect we truly have control over is our own preparation for the interview. We can spend hours rehearsing our answers, researching the company, and practicing out body language. That's all within our control. However, no amount of worrying will give us the power to dictate the interviewer's mood on that day, or predict the exact questions they'll choose to ask. These are variables that are out of our hands, so instead of expending energy on fretting over uncertainties, we can channel that energy into what we can control, and by doing so, we're not only making the best use of our time, but also alleviating unnecessary stress. A good real-life example of this principle was Epictetus himself. He was born as a slave and faced numerous hardships, yet he found peace in understanding what he could and couldn't control. He once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Epictetus didn't have control over his initial life circumstances, but he took control of his reactions and attitudes, eventually gaining his freedom and becoming a renowned philosopher. Another principle that Stoic philosophers emphasized as essential for alleviating worries is the practice of living in the present. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Wild animals run from the dangers they actually see, and once they have escaped, they worry no more. We, however, are tormented alike by what is past and what is to come." In this quote, Seneca observes that unlike animals, who respond to immediate dangers and then quickly move on, We humans have a tendency to dwell on past events and agonize over future possibilities. This habit of constantly shifting our mental focus between the past and the future can be emotionally exhausting, and nowadays, this challenge is exacerbated by technology. Technology has become an integral part of our lives, keeping us connected in ways we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago. Whether it's work emails that seem to never stop or social media updates that keep us scrolling, we're constantly bombarded with information. While this level of connectivity has its benefits, it also comes with a significant drawback. The constant stream of notifications and news has a way of pulling our focus away from the present moment. We find ourselves so engrossed in responding to all these digital stimulations that we often overlook what's happening right here, right now. So how do we reclaim the present when it's so frequently interrupted? Stoicism teaches us to focus on the present moment by emphasizing that it's the only realm where we have some control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Forget everything else. Keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already. We live only in the present, in this fleet-footed moment. The rest is lost and behind us, or ahead of us and may never be found, or is impossible to see." In this quote, Marcus Aurelius advises us that when we find ourselves getting pulled into the past or the future, we should pause and ground ourselves in the here and now. For example, let's say you're with friends or family, and you find yourself feeling anxious about an important meeting you have the next day. Instead of letting your mind wander to that meeting, try to ground yourself in the present. You can do this through actively engaging with your surroundings at this moment, by listening to what your friend's actually saying, understanding their emotions, and responding thoughtfully. It's also worth noting that according to Stoic philosophy, the present moment itself is neutral. It's our interpretation of it that can lead to discomfort or unhappiness. As Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." This quote encapsulates the Stoic idea that it's not what happens to us that causes distress and worry. Rather, it's our perspective of those events happening to us. When we think about it, this could be a liberating concept, because it means we have the ability to change how we feel by simply changing how we look at things. One Stoic technique that can help us see events from a different vantage point is known as cognitive distancing, also referred to as the view from above. In this technique, we mentally try to step back from a situation in order to be able to see it from a broader context. As Marcus Aurelius once said, how beautifully Plato put it, "Whenever you want to talk about people, it's best to take a bird's eye view and see everything all at once." This quote emphasizes how cognitive distancing can help us see our lives and worries as just tiny dots in a vast landscape of existence. When we zoom out, we see a mosaic of human experience, joys, sorrows, chaos, and peace, all coexisting. Our individual worries in this grand scheme often appear less daunting. This bird's eye view helps us detach from the immediacy of our problems, making it easier to navigate our emotions and worries. One effective approach is to adopt a third-person viewpoint, and that's by picturing ourselves as an impartial friend, giving advice to someone going through the exact situation we're facing. This mental shift helps create a sense of detachment, allowing us to assess the situation with greater clarity and rationality. As a result, we're more likely to lighten the emotional intensity surrounding the event, making it easier to reduce our stress and make sound decisions, adapting with the ever-changing nature of life. Stoicism, in fact, perceives life as a series of changes and advises us to not only accept change, but to welcome it as a natural part of life. Resisting change is like trying to hold back the river with your hands. It's not only futile, but irrational. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." So, what makes accepting change so vital if we want to manage our worries and anxiety? Stoicism argues that much of our worry stems from clinging to the way things currently are, or how we wish they would be. This attachment sets us up for disappointment and stress when life inevitably shifts. So when we acknowledge that change is inevitable, we liberate ourselves from the weight of these unrealistic expectations. For instance, in the modern economy, many of us can agree that job security is more of a myth than a guarantee. Layoffs, company restructures, or even personal realizations might lead us to switch careers. During such circumstances, it's natural to feel uneasy about what lies ahead. However, Stoicism offers a different perspective through which we can view these shifts. Rather than seeing them as obstacles or reasons to worry, Stoicism invites us to consider them as part of the natural cycle of life. After all, nothing stays the same, and that includes our careers. So we could look at these events as fresh opportunities, new chapters in our life story, where we can explore different paths and perhaps even rediscover aspects of ourselves we'd forgotten or hadn't yet uncovered.